This black man is awakened from his sleep by the barrel of a gun. "Get up, get up." The man is so terrified that he wets himself because the person standing in front of him is a devil who has slaughtered countless civilians. The rebel leader slaps him across the face, calls him a traitor, then hands him a gun and orders him to kill his own wife and children, or he will be shot on the spot. "How much do I have to pay you for you not to kill them?" "Give me the money." "Why not?" "Look, they're not rebels. To you, they're about to become worthless anyway. So why not take this chance to make some money?" "How much?" "Name your price." 10,000 francs per person. Paul quickly takes out 10,000 francs, and that is enough to save his wife and children from the rebels' guns. But just as he is about to drive away, he sees his terrified neighbors trembling on the ground. Unable to abandon them, he takes off the only valuable watch he has and tries to save everyone there. But clearly, that is nowhere near enough to satisfy the rebels' greed. Paul has no choice but to keep collecting valuables from everyone else. However, the greedy rebels agree to release only one person. No matter how much Paul begs, the rebels refuse to budge. Helpless, Paul is forced to return home alone. He takes 100,000 francs from the safe, and only then is he finally able to save everyone there. After that, Paul brings them to the hotel where he works so they can find shelter. But the hotel is already in chaos, and the owner is desperate to flee, leaving this entire mess to Paul. Outside, the rebels are carrying out a large-scale massacre. As a result, more and more refugees flood into the hotel, including all the foreigners. Everyone believes that as long as they can get a room here, they might survive. But the hotel only has one room left. At that moment, a Red Cross bus arrives at the hotel, packed with orphan children. Seeing these poor children, Paul decides to give them the last remaining room. The Red Cross workers are deeply grateful, but they immediately get back on the bus. "Where are you going? There are still 10 more children. I'll be back right away." After hearing reports on the radio about the Hutu massacre of the Tutsi, Paul doesn't know how much longer he can hold on. So he goes to the commander of the UN peacekeeping forces and begs him to move some of the refugees into their protected zone. But all he gets in return is a disappointing answer. Then Paul turns to a journalist, hoping he can report on what is happening. He believes that once Western countries see how terrible the situation is, they will surely help. But Paul is still too naive. After seeing it, they will simply say, "Oh my God, this is horrible," and then go right back to eating dinner. After hearing the journalist's words, Paul immediately falls into despair. Fortunately, just a few days later, international rescue teams actually arrive. Everyone cheers and jumps with excitement. At last, they see a glimmer of hope, but reality hits them in the face almost immediately. It turns out these European forces have not come to stop the massacre, but to evacuate the foreigners safely. The foreigners are even allowed to take a little dog with them, yet they cannot take a single Rwandan child. As they watch the bus slowly drive away, despair fills their hearts. They have been abandoned by the world. Now that the foreigners are no longer staying at the hotel, the rebels will have no reason to hold back from storming it. Sure enough, the next morning, Hutu militiamen storm into the hotel. Their leader orders Paul to gather everyone in the main hall. But Paul knows that gathering everyone together will only make it easier to kill them all. So while the rebels are distracted, Paul seizes the chance to act. He immediately calls his Belgian boss to say goodbye and to thank him for everything he has done. Then he prepares himself to face death. But unexpectedly, a soldier calls him back. "Hey, who did you just call?" "I was just saying goodbye to my family." "You better not be lying to me." That phone call ends up working, and because of it, Paul narrowly escapes disaster. But he also knows this is not a long-term solution, so he comes up with another plan. He gathers everyone together in the restaurant. Many of the people there know influential people abroad. Paul tells them to call those people and tell them what they are going through, and to say goodbye to them. But when you say goodbye, speak as if you can hold their hand through the phone. Make them understand that if they let go, you will die. Make them feel so ashamed that they will come and help us. So they begin making calls nonstop, but those days do not last long, and the hotel is running out of food. So Paul has no choice but to risk going to the rebels to buy food. But when he arrives at the rebel camp, he discovers that the old farm has been turned into a military base, and Tutsi women are being held inside the cattle sheds. Fortunately, Paul has a friend among the rebels, so they do not make things difficult for him. They even try to persuade him to join them. That way, he would never have to worry about food again, on one condition. He must hand over all the Tutsi refugees in the hotel. Paul refuses immediately. Before he leaves, the rebels give Paul a piece of advice. They tell him that taking the road along the river will be safer. But when Paul drives to the riverside, the sight before him leaves him frozen in horror. Corpses are piled everywhere along the road. The bodies stretch as far as the eye can see, and only then does he understand the rebels' words. It was nothing but a blatant threat. After returning to the hotel, Paul is on the verge of breaking down, but he cannot tell anyone and can only carry the burden alone. Soon after, the peacekeepers bring good news. The desperate phone calls they made earlier have finally worked. Anyone whose name is called can immediately board a plane and fly to another country, and Paul's family is on that list. However, just as Paul is about to leave, he turns back and looks at the refugees whose names were not called. He makes a difficult decision to stay behind and continue protecting them. He cannot just stand by and watch them die. Come on, Dad, I'll take the next one. Don't leave. Paul believes that his wife and children are finally safe. But unexpectedly, just after the peacekeepers drive off, someone exposes the escape plan over the radio. So the moment the peacekeepers reach the checkpoint, they are surrounded by thousands of rebels. Ignoring the peacekeepers' attempts to stop them, they climb onto the trucks and try to hack the refugees inside to death. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the local general arrives with his soldiers. It turns out that after hearing the radio report, Paul immediately called the general and promised him a reward afterward, which is what prevented another massacre. However, retreat is no longer possible, so the peacekeepers can only drive back to the hotel, and the general also comes there to collect his reward. But all Paul can offer at the moment is a handful of cash, and the general is not impressed at all. In anger, he throws the money to the ground and declares that he will no longer provide any protection for the hotel. That very night, the hotel is attacked. Then Paul's wife suddenly remembers that the former owner's safe still contains many valuable items. So for the safety of everyone in the hotel, Paul takes the general to his former workplace and hands over everything inside the safe, hoping the general will continue protecting the hotel. But even then, the general refuses, because by this point, the rebels have already begun their assault. Hearing that, Paul furiously asks the general if he has lost his mind. The Tutsi rebel forces are now advancing like a flood, and the general has already been marked as a war criminal who will one day face trial. Unless he saves the refugees in the hotel now, this is his only chance to prove he was not part of the massacre. The general is furious and almost draws his gun. But fearing that Paul may be right, he has no choice but to rush to the hotel with his soldiers. By then, the rebels have already stormed the hotel, but thanks to the general's intervention, a large-scale massacre is narrowly prevented. Soon after, the peacekeepers also arrive at the hotel. They evacuate all of the refugees there. On the way, Paul sees refugees walking in the opposite direction. And his heart grows heavy with sorrow. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire erupts ahead as an armed group of Hutu militiamen launches another attack. Fortunately, the Tutsi rebel forces arrive in time and manage to save everyone. The peacekeepers' convoy finally makes it past the front line and safely reaches the rear camp. This was a real ethnic massacre that truly happened in Rwanda. According to reports, as many as 1 million people were killed in just 3 short months. And our hero, Paul, through his courage and determination, saved 1,268 Tutsi refugees in the hotel.